Okay, good morning. I'll call this meeting to order. Thank you for your patience. And we'll have the secretary call the roll.
Senator Lang. Here. Senator Goycochea. Here. Senator Harris. Here. Senator Neal. Here. Senator Wynn. Here. Senator Severs-Gansert. Here. Senator Titus. Chair Dondero Loop.
And I am really excited to be here. And I know all of you are too. Okay, start with a couple things. Obviously, turn off the cell phones. And if you don't know that by now, you get to write it 100 times on your bill. And the number to dial in if you'd like to make public comment or testimony today will be 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID will be 880-0057-7643. Press pound, and then when asked for the participant ID, please press pound. That is also printed on the agenda or online on the agenda. So we're going to start with work session, which will make some of you very happy, and some of you know that you have to sit through a few things. But we figure some of the folks here may be for that, so we'll get that out of the way. And with that, we will start with Senate Bill 36. So, Mr. Thorley, when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 36, first reprint, was heard in this committee on May 16th. The bill adds soliciting a child for prostitution to the list of criminal sexual offenses, which require a psychosexual evaluation and requires a certification in instances in which a person convicted of a felony or gross misdemeanor other than a sexual offense, but for which the original charge, information, or indictment was for a sexual offense, and for which the suspension of sentence or granting of probation is permitted. The bill also requires the Division of Parole and Probation of the Department of Public Safety to arrange for a psychosexual evaluation of the defendant and make a pre-sentence investigation report to the court that includes the evaluation in certain instances. The effective date of the bill is October 1st, 2023. The Division of Parole and Probation submitted a fiscal note on the bill as introduced, indicating a $41,400 annual cost for paying for the additional psychosexual evaluations. That was based on a cost range indicated in the fiscal note of about $1,350 to $1,725 per evaluation. The bill was amended out of the policy committee, and subsequent to that, fiscal staff received an email saying that the first reprint did not change the fiscal impact, the estimated $41,400 per year. The bill was presented by the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General's office did not object to the fiscal note that was provided by Division of Parole and Probation. There was no testimony provided in support, opposition, or neutral. There were no amendments presented at that time. If the committee would like to move this bill, there are two options. The committee could amend the bill to add a general fund appropriation of $41,400 per year in the bill to address the fiscal note submitted by Division of Parole and Probation, or the committee could move the bill without an amendment to address the fiscal costs and instruct the agency, if they are not able to absorb the cost in their budget, to come to the IFC during the interim and request a contingency account allocation. Happy to answer any questions the committee members might have.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee members? Senator Titus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regardless of how we decide to pay for this, I think it's a absolutely critical evaluations that need to be done, and they're not. They can't do them for free. These will take some professional involvement, and they're already understaffed, so they will probably have to contract to do this. So whatever the chair feels best in finance, certainly support the bill.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on funding versus not? Senator Goycochea.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, if it's a good bill, we're going to have to pay for it. We just well book it, in my mind.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments from the committee? All right, I will accept a motion.
I'd so move to pass this with the funding mechanism.
Thank you very much. And with that, for Senator Wynn and a second from Senator Titus, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and I can give the floor statement to Senator Titus. Okay, we'll go to Senate Bill 71.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 71 first reprint was heard in this committee on May 16th. It renames the Nevada State Teacher Recruitment and Retention Advisory Task Force to the Nevada State Teacher Education Support Professional Recruitment and Retention Advisory Task Force, revises membership of the task force to include education support professionals, and revises powers and duties of the task force. The bill becomes effective on July 1st, 2023. The Legislative Council Bureau submitted a fiscal note indicating no fiscal impact. The Department of Education submitted a fiscal note originally indicating a cost of $16,050 per year. And the department indicated in an email to fiscal staff following the first reprint of the bill that the cost would be reduced to $5,998 per year. Testimony was provided by the interim deputy superintendent for student engagement and the deputy for support services, indicating that the fiscal impact would be reduced as previously indicated. The cost would relate to travel costs for members of the task force. There was no testimony in support, opposition, or neutral, and there were no amendments presented on the bill. Similar to what Mr. Thorley indicated on the previous bill, options for consideration by the committee include adding funding to the bill to support the increased travel costs, or seeing if the agency could absorb the costs and approach interim finance committee during the interim if they could not.
All right, thank you very much. Any discussion? I'll accept a motion.
So move.
Thank you, Senator Wynn.
Was the motion to add the money or to?
Add it.
Okay, add them.
And second by Senator Neal. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and I will take the floor statement on Senate Bill 71. All right, Senate Bill 88.
Senate Bill 88 was heard by the Senate Finance Committee yesterday morning. The bill requires the Joint Interim Standing Committee to conduct a study during the 2023-24 interim concerning state agencies that regulate natural resources in this state. The bill also states that the study must include an examination of the composition, mission, and scope of such state agencies, and the Joint Interim Standing Committee also must examine, without limitation, the Board of Wildlife Commissioners, the Commission on Mineral Resources, the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, and the State Environmental Commission. Any findings from the study must be reported to the 83rd session of the Nevada Legislature. The bill is effective on July 1st, 2023, and was presented by Assemblyman Watts. The Legislative Council Bureau submitted a fiscal note indicating the fiscal impact could not be determined. However, Assemblyman Watts yesterday testified that the study would not require a vendor to come in or outside support, but would instead be agendized as the regularly budgeted as a regularly budgeted meeting of the Joint Interim Standing Committee, and therefore would not require any additional costs beyond what is budgeted for the interim. Support testimony was provided by the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada, the Nevada Conservation League, Friends of Nevada Wildlife, the Nevada Humane Society, the Sierra Club, and the Nevada Republican Club. There was no testimony provided in opposition or neutral, and there were no amendments presented. Given that there is no fiscal impact, if the committee would like to move this bill, the motion would be to do pass.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All right, Senator Titus.
Thank you. Just to be clear, this is, again, just a study, and they are not assigned a BDR, so they have to report back.
Wayne Thorley for the record. The Joint Interim Standing Committee is assigned to certain BDRs, all Joint Interim Standing Committees, but this bill would not create an additional BDR related to the study. If they wanted to, if the Joint Interim Standing Committee wanted to submit a BDR, they'd have to use one of their existing BDRs.
All right, thank you very much. All right, with that, I'll accept a motion.
I'm sorry, was it amended do pass?
It was a do pass.
Oh, I'd move to do pass.
Thank you very much, Senator Wynn. A second from Senator Harris. And any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion, no from Senator Titus. And with that, I will assign the floor statement to Senator Harris. Thank you very much. All right, the next bill is Senate Bill 195. It is Senator Wynn's, but it is Senate Bill 195.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 195 was heard in this committee on May 18th. It revises provisions relating to disciplinary actions taken by the Cannabis Compliance Board against a holder of a license or registration card. The bill authorizes the board to enter into a consent or settlement agreement with the licensee or registrant, as long as the terms are discussed at a meeting of the board, sets forth mitigating circumstances for consideration when approving or modifying terms of a consent or settlement agreement, requires the licensee or registrant with multiple alleged violations to be charged in a single complaint by the board, and limits the civil penalty amount charged by the board for a single violation to $20,000. Among various other provisions. The bill becomes effective on passage and approval. Regarding the fiscal impact, the Cannabis Compliance Board submitted a fiscal note as introduced, indicating a decrease in time and effort revenues of about $2 million a year. The revenue decrease would result in a corresponding reduction in funding available to support the state education fund. Testimony on the bill was provided by Senator Wynn. There was support provided by the Sierra Cannabis Coalition, Argentum Partners, Strategies 360, Solia Consulting. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral. And Senator Wynn did present a conceptual amendment that reconciled Section 7 of the bill with Senate Bill 328 if passed. And would add language to Section 11 to allow for certain billing solely for application-driven investigations. Based on the conceptual amendment, the Cannabis Compliance Board indicated that they were estimating a reduction in revenues totaling roughly $2 million a year. And as I mentioned, that would be a decrease in revenue available to the state education fund, but there would need to be no funding added to this bill to affect those changes. If the committee wishes to consider the bill, the action would be amend and do pass as amended.
Thank you very much. Any conversation on this? All right, Senator Wynn?
I just want to note that in case you guys missed that, there was a reduction with that amendment to the fiscal note that was there by a couple million, so.
Thank you very much, and I'll accept and amend and do pass on. Thank you very much, Senator Harris, and a second from Senator Neal. And if there's no discussion on the bill, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and Senator Wynn, you may have the floor statement. All righty, we'll go to Senate Bill 216.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 216, reprint 1, requires county and city clerks to establish and maintain a working relationship with each Indian tribe located in the county or city. The bill authorizes an Indian tribe to submit a request to the Secretary of State to allow tribal identification cards to be accepted by the online voter pre-registration and registration system established by the Secretary of State. The effective date is upon passage and approval for the purposes of adopting regulations and performing other preparatory administrative tasks, and on January 1st, 2024 for all other purposes. The bill was presented by Senator Orenshaw and the Chief Deputy Secretary of State. Regarding the fiscal impact, the Secretary of State submitted a fiscal note on the bill as introduced, indicating a cost of approximately $335,000 in fiscal year 24. However, based off of the first reprint, the Secretary of State's office has reduced their fiscal impact estimate. There is an unsolicited fiscal note on Nellis from the Secretary of State's office with this reduction. It's currently on the reprint 1 version that's before you. The Secretary of State's office is estimating a cost of approximately $57,000 in FY24 and $71,000 in FY25 for a program officer 1 position that would be a dedicated tribal liaison. There was an amendment submitted by the Washoe County Registrar of Voters that is policy in nature, would not affect the fiscal the fiscal estimate from the Secretary of State's office. The primary gist of the amendment is that rather than requiring county clerks and city clerks to establish and maintain working relationships with Indian tribes, it would require them to schedule to meet with Indian tribes. I think the idea here, as testified, was that if the Indian tribe is not interested in maintaining such a relationship, that this is more gives the county and city clerks the ability to reach out to them and establish that. But if they're not receptive, then they're not in they would not be in violation of the statute. Support testimony was provided by All Voting is Local Action, the Silver State Voices, and several Nevada tribes. There was no testimony provided in opposition. There was neutral testimony from Jamie Rodriguez, the Washoe County Register of Voters, just in relation to the proposed amendment that I mentioned. If the committee would like to move this bill, they have a couple options. One would be to add general fund appropriations to fund the cost of the program officer 1 position, as described in the unsolicited fiscal note from the Secretary of State's office. The other option would be to not fund that position and ask the agency to come back to the Interim Finance Committee during the interim if their current budget does not support the cost for this. I would note that the Secretary, in closing the budget for the Secretary of State's office, the money committees did approve 3 new positions for the elections division. One in particular was a Program Officer 3, so in the same series as the one that is proposed in the fiscal note. And the stated purpose of the Program Officer 3 position that was approved was primarily for, I think, translation services, but could absorb the duties here related to tribal liaison. Existing law does not require agencies to have a dedicated position solely for tribal liaison. It does require state agencies, however, to designate a position on their staff as a tribal liaison. So a new position is not required to be dedicated to that. It is duties that could be assigned to existing positions under current law. Happy to answer any questions that the committee might have. If the decision is to move forward without addressing the fiscal note, then the motion would be to to amend and do pass with the Washoe County Registrar of Voters amendment. And if the committee would like to add the general fund appropriations for the new Program Officer 1 position, the motion would also be to amend and do pass as amended, however, with both the Washoe County Registrar of Voter amendment and the general fund appropriations in both fiscal years for the position.
Okay, any discussion? Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And of course, my real concern on this one was the impact to the local governments. I think we heard in the testimony, like in Wells, the city of Wells would have to put the ballot boxes and all this in place, and they technically only had 16 individuals that would access it. I think with the Washoe amendment, that is covered. And I guess my recommendation would be, let's go ahead and accept the Washoe amendment and see how this shakes out with the ability for them to come back to IFC. There's a lot of moving parts in these election bills, and we don't know what the final bill is going to be at this point. So rather than making an appropriation, let's go ahead and see what it looks like.
I appreciate that, Senator Gokachia. Thank you. Any additional comments? All right, with that, I would accept a motion to amend and do pass with the Washoe County Registrar amendment.
So move.
Okay, Senator Wynn and a second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on that motion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. And Mr. Gokachia, Senator, would you like that? All righty, thank you very much. All right, with that, we'll go to Senate Bill 226.
Kathy Crockett, Physical Analysis Division. Senate Bill 226 was heard on May 17th. It was the first reprint of the bill. The bill requires, with certain exceptions, the payment of prevailing wages on any project if pursuant to certain agreements or partnerships between a developer and a public body, with various items noted in the bill that public prevailing wages would apply to. Senate Bill 226 also exempts certain projects related to affordable housing to the provisions of the bill. The act becomes effective upon passage and approval. The Department of Business and Industry Office of the Labor Commissioner submitted a fiscal note on the bill indicating a cost of approximately $395,000 in fiscal year 24 and $498,000 in fiscal year 25 based on the bill as introduced. That was based on the cost of 5 positions. After the first reprint of the bill, they indicated the cost would be reduced by 1 position at approximately a reduction of $70,000 in fiscal year 2024 and $95,000 in fiscal year 2025. The bill was presented by Senator Cannizzaro, joined by the Southern Nevada Building and Trades. Regarding support, there was none provided. There was testimony provided in opposition by the Urban Consortium, the Las Vegas Chamber, the City of Las Vegas and neutral testimony provided by the Office of the Labor Commissioner. Senator Canizaro did provide a draft amendment that further clarified which projects prevailing wages would apply to. And fiscal staff followed up with the Office of the Labor Commissioner regarding the proposed amendment. And they indicated that with the proposed amendment, an additional position could be eliminated from the request. So that would be a total of 3 positions that the Office of Labor Commissioner indicates they would need to support the provisions of the bill. And that would reduce the cost to $261,768 in fiscal year '24 and $314,555 in fiscal year 2025. The mock-up amendment should be available in Nellis on the original bill hearing page. Options for consideration by the committee include adding general fund to the bill to support the projected Office of Labor Commissioner costs, or directing the agency to approach the interim finance committee for a contingency account allocation during the interim if it could not absorb the workload into its existing staff. If the committee wishes to take action on the bill, the action would be amend and do pass as amended.
All right, with that, is there any discussion? All right, I will accept a motion.
I'd so move to amend and do pass without the funding, and if they do need that funding, they can come to IFC.
Thank you very much. Second on that from Senator Harris. Discussion from Senator Ganser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be opposing this legislation. It again expands prevailing wage, and we cover a lot of our public buildings, but I think it's just it's just too far again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Titus is a ditto. Senator Goicoechea, a ditto. Okay, with that, I will ask all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Nays are Senator Titus, Senator Goicoechea, and Senator Gansert. Motion passes, and I will give this floor statement to the Majority Leader. So with that, we will go to Senate Bill 234.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record again, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. This Senate Bill 234, reprint 2, was heard on May 16th in Senate Finance Committee. The bill, in its second reprint, requires the Department of Corrections to establish and administer a pilot program to provide telephone calls free of charge between offenders in the custody of the Department of Corrections who have been assigned to the Florence McClure Women's Correctional Center and the families of such offenders, and requires the pilot program to provide such an offender with a 15-minute telephone call each day to a member of the family of the offender free of charge. In addition, the bill in its second reprint requires the Department of Corrections to prepare and submit to the Board of State Prison Commissioners a report concerning participation of offenders in this pilot program, and stipulates that the provisions of this bill, including the pilot program, expire by limitation on January 1st, 2025. There was no fiscal impact or fiscal note submitted by the agency on the bill as introduced. The bill was presented by Senator Scheibel and was joined by Director Zarenda, the Director of the Department of Corrections, who testified that this pilot program would have no fiscal impact on the department and that they could absorb any costs associated with the pilot program with their existing budget. There were no amendments presented at the time the bill was heard. There was no testimony provided in support, opposition, or neutral. Given that there is no fiscal impact as testified by the director of the department, the committee, if it wishes to move this bill, would make a motion to do pass as amended, do pass the version 2, reprint 2. Happy to answer any questions if any committee members have them.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee members? All right. With that, I will accept a motion.
I'd like to make that motion.
Oh, all right. Well,
The-
Senator Gansert, we'd be happy to have you make that motion.
Thank you. And just for information, Senator Scheibel sponsored this bill, but Max Grinstein, who is the youth legislator from District 15, is the one who asked for it. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that information. That's important that our youth legislators are involved, so thank you very much. A second?
Second.
Second from Senator Wynn. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and I will give that floor statement to Senator Scheibel. And Senator Harris, you can be our backup. All righty. So with that, we will go to Senate Bill 266.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 266, the first reprint of the bill, was heard on May 16th in this committee. The bill revises existing law to exclude from the calculation of gross gaming revenue on which the monthly license fee is imposed any portion of entry fees collected for the right to participate in contests and tournaments conducted on the premises of a licensed gaming establishment, with the participants physically present at those premises when participating in the portion of those fees is designated as one, an employee compensation used to pay an employee of a licensee additional compensation for being involved in the organization or operation of the contest or tournament, or 2, a donation and remitted to certain tax-exempt organizations. 3, an addition to a payoff schedule of the contest or tournament that is paid as a prize to our participant in a present or future contest or tournament, or 4, an addition to an account to pay guaranteed payouts of future contests or tournaments. The bill also clarifies that cash from an entry fee excluded from gross revenue may not be deducted from gross gaming revenue when paid out or distributed for a purpose other than the purpose for which an exclusion is authorized, and must be included in the calculation of gross gaming revenue for the month in which it is paid out or distributed for a purpose other than the purpose which an exclusion is authorized. The bill becomes effective on July 1st, 2023. The Gaming Control Board submitted a fiscal note indicating an annual reduction in gross gaming tax revenues of $1.7 million per year based upon FY 2022 collections. The bill was presented by Senator Pizzina, and it was noted that these fees were not included in the revenue calculations until 2019, and the bill, if approved, would return revenue calculations to the 2019 level. There was an amendment presented that's available in Nellis on the bill page, and the amendment was mock-up 3654, and it generally reduced the frequency of certain reporting requirements. The Nevada Resort Association testified in support of the bill. There was no testimony in opposition and neutral. If the committee wishes to approve the bill, an appropriate action might be amend and do pass as amended. As I mentioned, there is a revenue reduction, but there would not be any amendments to add any funding to the bill if the committee wishes to approve the bill.
Thank you so much. Any discussion on this? All right. With that, I'll accept a motion.
So move.
Amend and do pass from Senator Wynn, second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on that motion? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and I will give that floor statement to Senator Pizzina. And we will move on to Senate Bill 274.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley again for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 274, reprint 1, was heard in Senate Finance on May 16th. It was presented by Senator Daley. The bill revises provisions relating to industrial insurance. In presenting the bill, Senator Daley discussed an amendment which you all should, it is online on Nellis attached to the bill page. Proposed amendment 3645 to Senate Bill 274. The amendment generally well, under existing law, a person who is aggrieved by the failure of the administrator of the Division of Industrial Relations to respond to a written request for a determination within 90 days after the request is mailed to the administrator may appeal the failure to respond. This amendment instead would, in Section 4, revises those provisions and to instead authorize a person who is aggrieved by the failure of the administrator to respond to a complaint alleging that the insurer, organization, or managed care healthcare provider, or third-party administrator, employer, or professional employer organization has committed certain violations within 120 days after the administrator receives the complaint to appeal the failure to respond appeal the failure to respond by filing a request for a hearing within 150 days after the receipt of the complaint. There was, on the bill is introduced, a fiscal note submitted by the Division of Industrial Relations, and also on the and then a subsequent unsolicited fiscal note submitted on the first reprint from the Division of Industrial Relations. The fiscal note indicates that an additional position would be needed, a compliance auditor investigator 2 position in the workers' compensation section of the division, and then also technology upgrade costs. The total estimated cost in FY24 from the division is approximately $147,000, and in FY25 approximately $99,000. The Division of Industrial Relations, the Workers' Compensation section, is funded by the Workers' Compensation Fund, and we have received confirmation from the division that there is sufficient funding available in that fund, which is paid by an assessment from employers, to cover the cost of that position and the system upgrades. Accordingly, no additional funding would be required to be put into the bill to fund those costs. There was no testimony provided in support, opposition, or neutral. If the committee wishes to move this bill with the proposed amendment from Senator Daley, and again, that was amendment mock-up 3645, the motion would be to amend and do pass as amended. Happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
All right, any questions? Senator Gocochea?
Just as I understand it, there's no real fiscal impact to this bill, so we don't like the bill, we can vote against it on the floor. Thank you.
Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. So there will be a fiscal impact, not on the general fund, on the workers' compensation and safety fund.
Any additional questions? All right, with that, I will accept a motion for amend and do pass.
I'd so move to amend and do pass.
Thank you very much, Senator Wynn. A second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Gansert.
Thank you. I'll just be opposing the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Gansert. Senator Titus and Senator Gocochea. Thank you very much. All right, with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Nay from Senator Titus, Senator Gokachia, and Senator Gansert. Motion passes. Our bookends, I am happy to have you here. All right, with that, Senator Daley, we will give him the floor statement, and we'll move on to Senate Bill 277.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 277 was heard in committee on May 22nd. The bill requires the Cannabis Compliance Board to consider adverse effects on the environment prior to modifying any regulation. The bill further establishes a process for existing medical license holders to apply for an adult use license, deems adult use cannabis establishments as dual licensees, exempts medical cannabis sales to holders of a registry identification card or letter of approval from the excise tax imposed on retail sales, prohibits the board from issuing or renewing a medical cannabis license establishment on or after January 1st, 2024, unless the establishment is in a covered jurisdiction and sets forth provisions for establishments not in covered jurisdiction. The bill also revises provisions allowing exemptions from state prosecution for the possession, delivery, and production of cannabis, and revises the amount of cannabis that medical cannabis dispensaries and cannabis sales facilities are authorized to sell to a person per transaction, repeals provisions concerning excluded felony offense and associated restrictions on licenses and registrants who have been convicted of an excluded felony offense, and increases the maximum fees the board may charge to issue or renew a license. The bill also requires the Cannabis Advisory Commission to conduct a study concerning the potential effects of the removal of cannabis from the list of controlled substances included in Schedule 1 pursuant to the Federal Controlled Substance Act or the Uniform Controlled Substances Act. The bill is effective for administrative preparatory tasks on passage and approval, and January 1st, 2024 for other purposes. Section 16 of the bill does become effective on July 1st, 2023. The bill was presented by Senator Harris. Senator Harris did provide a mock-up amendment, and she provided an updated mock-up amendment today that has been handed out to all senators and is available in Nellis for review. Initially, the Department of Taxation indicated a fiscal impact of approximately $105,000 in fiscal year 2024 and $110,000 in fiscal year 2025. However, upon further review, the department indicated in an email to fiscal staff that it would be able to absorb the workload with its existing staff, and there would be a nominal revenue impact associated with the bill. Regarding testimony in support, the Nevada Cannabis Association, Chamber of Cannabis, Sierra Cannabis Coalition, and various cannabis organizations testified in support of the bill. The Compassion Center and one individual testified in opposition, and the Nevada Association of Counties testified in neutral. As I mentioned, the Department of Taxation indicated do not project a fiscal impact from the bill. If the committee wishes to approve the bill, the appropriate motion would be amend and do pass.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on the bill? Senator Gansert.
Thank you very much. So I have a question about the amendment. So we're looking at this amendment. Okay. So I'm looking at the two bottom ones where you remove the requirement for someone who has less than a 5% ownership. They don't have to get an agent registration card, but then you point to the board, it looks like, to decide if you have over 5% who actually has to get that card. And I know we've had concerns about transparency, who owns establishments, who doesn't own establishments in the process. So if you're not required to if the board comes up with regulations, would that provide an ability for them to decrease the transparency around who owns cannabis establishments.
Thank you for the question, Senator Severs-Gansert. I believe the intention here is to allow the board to have some flexibility where actually if you have 5% or less, that you wouldn't have to get an agent card. I do not believe the intention is to allow the board to waive in perpetuity for folks who own substantial amounts of interest. But for those smaller owners, we want to make sure that the CCB is able to waive that requirement.
Thank you. When I read this, I'm reading it the opposite way. It says adopt regulations establishing policies and procedures which the board may waive the requirements set forth, and then it goes on to say for someone who has an ownership interest of 5% or more. 5% or more. So it looks like you're opting out people less than 5%, and that the board will have the ability to decide what to do with anybody who's 5% or greater.
Yeah, you're correct, Senator Severs-Gansert, and this really applies to folks who are a cannabis executive, not necessarily just owners. And so there are other ways in which we would have transparency of the involvement of such persons. There's no guarantee what the regulations would look like, but we're just going to kick it back to the CCB.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And I believe I believe this was also a request from the CCB in a previous bill, and so we're going to go ahead and add that here.
Thank you. So I'm concerned about this amendment, so I'm going to oppose it, but thank you.
Senator Gansert, I do see someone from the CCB in the audience. Do you have questions for them? No, there isn't. Oh, sorry about that. I was looking at Ms. Martin.
Oh, down in Vegas.
And down in Vegas, we have someone else, yeah. I was looking up here and down there and thought maybe we had it covered, but who knows?
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Go
I'm
ahead,
Deputy
please.
Director Michael Miles. Sorry, I'm Deputy Director Michael Miles from the CCB. The waiver for greater than 5% ownership was meant more for holding companies, like passive investment holding companies that have no involvement in the business itself.
Thank you. I understand what he's saying. I'll still be opposed. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Thorley, would you please just repeat the motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I don't believe a motion has been taken.
No, I would like you to repeat what the motion
Oh, it would be to amend and do pass as, nope, that has not been previously amended, so just amend and do pass with the proposed conceptual amendment from Senator Harris. If this moves out of committee, LCB Legal will draft the amendment, and of course that the official amendment will be available for review before voting on the floor.
Okay, with that, I will call for a motion.
So move to amend and do pass with Senator Harris's conceptual amendment.
Thank you very much. Senator Wynn, a second from Senator Neal. And with that, any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Senator Titus, Senator Goicoechea, and Senator Gansert are nays. Motion passes. And I will give the floor statement to Senator Harris. And with that, we will move on to Senate Bill 281.
Wayne Thorley again for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 281, reprint 1, was heard in Senate Finance on May 17th. Bill sponsored by Senator Wynn. The bill revises the existing requirement for a public utility which purchases natural gas for resale to 10 or more customers to file an annual informational report with the PUCN. On or before October 1st, 2025, and on or before October 1 of every third year thereafter. The plan, the report must include a plan designed to meet the current and future needs for natural gas at the lowest reasonable cost to the public utility and its customers. The bill also creates the requirement that the PUCN require each public utility to meet with personnel from the Commission and the Bureau of Consumer Protection within the Attorney General's office and any other interested persons at least 4 months before filing the plan or within a reasonable period before filing an amendment to an existing plan to provide an overview of the plan or amendment. Additionally, Senate Bill 281, reprint 1, requires the PUCN to hold a public hearing on the adequacy of a utilities plan, prohibits a utility from filing a general rate application within 180 days before or after filing of its plan, and requires the PUCN to adopt certain regulations which authorize a utility to include in its plan a proposal to expand its infrastructure consistent with a program of economic development. The effective date of the bill is upon passage and approval for the purpose of adopting any regulations and performing any other preparatory administrative tasks that are necessary to carry out provisions of the bill, and then on January 1st, 2024 for all other purposes. The bill was presented by Senator Wynn, and she indicated in her testimony that the two fiscal notes submitted by the PUCN and the Office of the Attorney General still stand even with the reprint 1 version of the bill. The fiscal note submitted by the Public Utilities Commission indicates that one new full-time unclassified resource planning engineer position would be needed, one part-time unclassified regulatory economist position, and one quarter-time unclassified commission policy advisor position would be needed with an estimated cost of $215,000 a year in FY24 and $237,000 per year in FY25. The PUCN is funded not by the general fund but through the mill assessment. The agency estimates that this fiscal impact would raise the annual regulatory assessment by 0.05 mils, which would have an impact on the monthly residential ratepayer of approximately 1 cent in FY24 and 1 cent in FY25. The Attorney General's Office fiscal note indicates that 2 positions would be needed in the Bureau of Consumer Protection within the AG's office, 1 engineer and 1 economist, along with associated operating costs. The estimate is for $229,000 in FY24 and $289,000 in FY25. The Bureau of Consumer Protection receives very little general fund, primarily funded also through the mill assessment, and so similar to the PUCN, funding could be provided through the mill assessment to fund these positions. Testimony in support was provided by Southwest Gas, the Vegas Chamber, Advanced Energy United, the Nevada Trucking Association, and Nevada Manufacturing Association. There was no testimony provided in opposition or neutral. There were no amendments presented at the time of the hearing, and fiscal staff is not aware of any amendments at this time. If the committee would like to move this bill, again, there would be no general fund impact. However, there would be an impact on the mill assessment, and the appropriate motion would be then to do pass as amended in its reprint 1 version.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thorley. Any discussion on this particular bill? Senator Wynn.
I had a question offline, and I just wanted to clarify. What Senate Bill 281 does is currently natural gas utilities are not subject to a planning process. This is similar to the planning process that other utilities have to go through. This would provide for more due process, more open meetings, more discussions, and more consumer protections on any ratepayer increases that potentially would, or any projects that are in effect. So hopefully that answers some questions that we had here.
Thank you very much. And with that, I will accept a motion from Senator Titus, a second from Senator Harris. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and we'll give the floor statement to Senator Wynn. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to our last work session bill today, or maybe not, as we move through this ever-changing schedule. Senate Bill 291.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 291 was heard in committee on May 12th. The bill removes the requirement that to qualify for employment as a substitute teacher, a student teacher must have completed at least 4 weeks of student teaching in a school district. Additionally, the bill appropriates $1.575 million to Nevada Department of Education for the Nevada Institute on Teaching and Educator Preparation and requires the Institute to report on expenditures of this money to the Interim Finance Committee. The bill becomes effective on passage and approval. The bill was presented by Senator Cannizzaro and Dr. Kenneth Varner. And regarding testimony and support, the Nevada System of Higher Education, Las Vegas Chamber, Nevada Association of Superintendents, Nevada Education Association, and University of Nevada, Reno testified in support. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral, and no amendments were presented on the bill. There were no fiscal notes on the bill. However, it does contain a $1.575 million general fund appropriation. If the committee wishes to take action on the bill, the appropriate motion would be do pass.
Thank you very much. And any discussion on this particular item? All right, seeing no discussion, I'll accept a motion.
I'd so move.
Thank you very much, Senator Wynn. A second from Senator Titus. And any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. And I will take the floor statement unless the majority leader would like that personally. But you can put me down for that, Mr. Thorley. All right, we have completed the work session for this part today. So now we will go back to our bill hearings, and we will start with Senate Bill 205. And Senator Harris, or Senator Hansen, sorry, wrong senator, wrong Senator H.
It's a compliment to both of us.
It might very well be. I looked down at something in front of me and it said Senator Harris, and that's what came out. So, apologies.
I'm happy she's grimacing, so it's a little different.
I know you love to embarrass me, Senator Hansen, so you did a good job. So thank you very much. Welcome to Senate Finance, and welcome, Mr. Sievers, and please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be very brief as I promised. I'm Ira Hansen, Senate District 14. Senate Bill 205 is a bill that allows the Commission on Off-Highway Vehicles, who currently have a program in place to license off-highway vehicles. They currently have a one-year registration program. We, with this bill, would give them an optional 3-year window to offer to people that use off-highway vehicles. The dollar amounts will remain the same, so if it's $20 for 1 year, it will be $60 for 3 years, completely optional. So that really is the gist of the bill. There's one other provision in it, and that is a reciprocity clause. Currently in Nevada law, we allow people who bring off-highway vehicles from other states a 15-day window to use them here without needing to get licensed, and we want to make sure that Nevada citizens who take theirs to other states are treated the same. And that is the whole bill in a nutshell. The fiscal note was put on originally by the Department of Motor Vehicles because they thought they were going to, because of the time frame, they are in the process of updating their computer system, and they thought in order to implement this, it would cost them some money. What we did was instead made the bill, the effective date of the bill optional, so that when they have their new program in place, they can put this in law at that point. And that is the bill. I also have Mr. Sievers here. Of course, he's in the neutral position, but he's here to answer any questions. Director Settlemeyer of the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources is here as well to answer. The bill really is a win-win for everybody.
Thank you very much. Senator Hansen, I do have one question just for clarification. Do other states allow us to take ATVs into their states and have that window of 15 days or whatever it may be in their state?
Honestly, Madam Chair, I am not sure how all the other states do it. I'm just, my understanding is that we do it, and the reason we put in the reciprocity is try to encourage other states to do it. But I do not know how all the other states currently, how their
Okay.
laws are structured.
I was just curious when you made that comment in your testimony. I know some ATV people that will be very happy. All right. Any discussion on this bill? Any questions? I appreciate the work you've done on this bill, and I appreciate the idea. I think that, you know, we encourage people to get out and do things outdoors, and this is a way to sort of encourage that more. So, and the price isn't changing. It just means we don't have those people in the DMV all the time or online all the time. So that will help the DMV as well.
Yeah, reduce paperwork by a third, but increase the revenue by 3 times, so for the same amount of
Sure.
paperwork, so.
All right. Well, it looks like you're off the hook. And Mr. Severs, it's always a pleasure to see you. So thank you very much,
Thank you
Senator
for the hearing.
Hansen.
Much
Thank you very
appreciated.
much. All right. Well, with that, I will go to support for Senate Bill 205. Seeing none in Carson City, none in Las Vegas, we'll go to the phone lines. BPS when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 205, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you. Those in opposition here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, on the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 205, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to neutral here in Carson City. Welcome, Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. James Settlemeyer, Director, Department of Conservation and Natural Resource. The original amendment that Senator Hansen put on his bill eliminated our fiscal note, and we are supportive of the concept, but obviously testifying neutral. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to Las Vegas, and we'll go to the phone lines. BPS when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 205, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, any closing comments, sir? All right, then with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 205, and we will go to Senate Bill 222. Thank you. And Senator Harris, when you're ready, we'll take your time.
Thank you, Chair Dondera Loop, members of the Senate Finance Committee. My name is Dallas Harris, representing Senate District 11, here to present the fiscal impacts of Senate Bill 222 to you all today. We'll keep it nice and simple. We're adding a list to the list of folks who would be eligible jurors, and so the Administrative Office of Courts is asking for around $20,000 to be able to do some programming to implement that. I believe that is the only fiscal impact to the state that this committee has to consider today. And Madam Chair, with your permission, I'd like to just do a quick verbal conceptual to delete sections 3, 4, and 5 of the bill, which is not related to fiscal impact, but expanded eliminated the time bar in which felons could serve on criminal juries. We're going to go ahead and delete that piece today. Again, that has no impact on the fiscal portion of this bill, however. ready for questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Harris. Will you just quickly give while this isn't a policy committee, just give us a quick, so this is what this bill does and don't include those pieces so that we're clear?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Dallas Harris for the record. So Section 1 adds to the list that a jury commissioner has to compile of qualified electors, adds the Department of Health and Human Services list of folks who are on welfare and other state assistance programs. The goal here is to increase the diversification of the jury pool. And the other piece that this bill does is raise the pay from $40 per day to $65 per day. The $40 amount was set previously, and that was a jump from $10, and so they went from 10 to 40. And the $65 number that you see before you is simply the CPI adjusted amount of $40.
Thank you very much. All right, any discussion or questions from the committee? Senator Titus, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Harris, could you clarify again what sections you're removing? You said 3 and 4?
Thank you for the question, Senator Titus. Dallas Harris for the record to you through Chair Dondera Loop. It would be 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you very much.
Any other questions about this particular bill? All right, Senator Harris, then we will go to those in support of Senate Bill 222. In Carson City, in Las Vegas, on the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 222, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much, and we'll go to opposition here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone line, BPS when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 222, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to neutral here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, on the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 222, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, any closing comments, Senator Harris? All righty, then I will close the hearing on Senate Bill 222, and don't go far, Senator Harris, because we will hear Senate Bill 439. I didn't get enough sleep last night.
Good morning again, committee. Madam Chair, Dallas Harris for the record to present Senate Bill 439. You all should have received a conceptual amendment for you. It does not change the bill in substance. It does, however, remove entirely the fiscal note from the Department of Public and Behavioral Health. I believe it was somewhere close to $9 million. It is now zero, which means the fiscal impact to the state is just the Department of Education's fiscal note in order to effectuate the provisions of the bill related to updating how we teach sexual education in the state. With that, Madam Chair, happy to take any questions.
All righty. I'll give the committee just a minute, and I'm sure Senator Titus, no, really? You're slipping down there. You're slipping down there. All righty. With that, Senator Harris, you've done your hard work. Then with no questions, we'll go straight to support for Senate Bill 439. Please come forward.
Morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Just really quick, Leah Case on behalf of the Nevada Public Health Association in support of SB 439.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. I'm here on behalf of the Pharmaceutical Care Management Association. Definitely want to thank the sponsor of this piece of legislation for working with all the stakeholders on it, and we very much support it. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. On behalf of Sarah Adler, on behalf of the Nevada Advanced Practice Nurses Association, APRNs are very proud to be providing this care throughout our state, and thank the sponsor for the bill.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll go to Las Vegas. Seeing none, we'll go to the phone lines. BPS when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 439, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Stephen Messenger with Nevada Primary Care Association, representing the state's federally qualified health centers. We are in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is Joelle Gutman with the Washoe County Health District. We're in strong support of SB 439. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we'll go to opposition here in Carson City.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Melissa Clement, representing myself, MELISSACLEMENT. Appreciate that the sponsor took out the big price tag for $10 million, but there still is a price to this bill, and it's a price to the parents. Because, I have no issues with any of the HIV drugs or anything like that. My main concern is, as a parent, parents are rightly the first educators of their children, especially in the areas of morals. Sex education, when it goes beyond the very basics, can easily conflict. Now, what is the fiscal impact? I'm not going to go policy. Everybody knows that, but there's a very real cost to parents when they don't have the opportunity to address what the curriculum is. This takes the curriculum piece, the very important aspect of being able to go to your local school board and say, I have a problem with the math curriculum. I think you should be doing something with blocks or something. The same as with sex, and even more so. Sex education is a tough issue. It is a lightning rod, and when you take it to the state level, where the decisions are made by bureaucrats appointed by elected officials, what you're doing is just protecting the elected officials at the local level. And where it becomes a problem is then parents like me have to go find a different school. Suddenly I can't go to my public school. I have to homeschool or I have to private school because I disagree. So anyway, there is a fiscal impact. It is not $10 million anymore, but it is quite costly to our parents. Thanks so much.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Janine Hansen. I'm the state president of Nevada Families for Freedom. We are significantly concerned about this bill. It revolutionizes what's going on in the local communities regarding the sex education curriculum. It costs democracy. This takes from the local parents the opportunity to participate in their local sex education advisory committees and strips them essentially of all of their authority there. This is an important part of democracy, of participating in your local government. This is stripped out of this bill. It puts it in an unelected, unaccountable board to determine what the curriculum is. What's the cost of that? The cost of that is huge in terms of local parent participation and being able to determine for the different counties what's best for them. I think that's very important. We try to address that in this building all the time, the needs of the different counties. This takes that away, absolutely. Another thing it takes away is that it mandates, before, we could only have a school nurse or a teacher that could teach this. But this allows them to determine, someone like Planned Parenthood can come into the classroom and teach things that the parents oppose. And so this is a great concern about this bill and changes the way we've done it for many years, which local communities have participated in. Significant concerns. It broadens the subjects, and it promotes access to reproductive health care services without limitation. So they're going to be promoting Planned Parenthood in the classroom. What's the cost of that to our children if instead of talking to their parents, instead of a reasonable curriculum, they're told to go see somebody else about the decisions that they make? We're considerably concerned about how this radically changes the way we have done sex education in the state of Nevada with local input, local parents, local sex education advisory committees, and local school boards making the decision. We oppose this radical departure from the democratic way it's done in the past.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Palmer. Kathleen, Palmer. I want to talk to you about SB 439, which provides access to HIV drugs to Medicaid recipients and people in prison. There's a lot in the bill, and I just got it last night. Am I correct on that?
The bill has been out since
Okay, well, I got it.
April 24th.
I got it last night. So I just want to make sure that I've got the right thing.
There is a first reprint. There's
Okay. I'm going to go ahead.
Okay.
Offering a drug, while SB 439 provides access to HIV drugs to Medicaid recipients and people in prison, offering a drug is acceptable, but coercion rapidly set in to enforce compliance during our most recent health emergency. Perhaps you remember it. At first, I was offered injections of emergency use authorized experimental synthetic mRNA spike protein encased in lipid nanoparticles. Then I was offered donuts and gift certificates if I would only submit to injections. Soon I was barred from restaurants and civic spaces. I was not allowed to visit my mother in the hospital when she was dying because I would not submit. I lost relationships with all of my family members, and I couldn't get a job because I was not injected. Oddly, many of my family members and friends got COVID, especially after repeated injections. I never got COVID, even though I lived for months with a person who repeatedly tested positive. One of the 4 principles of medical ethics is autonomy. The patient has the right to choose and refuse treatment. This applies to all humans, even people on Medicaid or in prison. The Nuremberg Code also states that people have the right to refuse medical treatment, including experimental drugs. My experience confirms my belief in the ability of my body's robust and sophisticated immune system to fight off infections and communicable disease. Over the past 3 years, I've learned that the best way to achieve and maintain health is to do the exact opposite of what the public health authorities, legacy media, and drug companies tell me to do. The government should guarantee that all persons have the right to make their own decisions about what goes into their bodies. That should be amended into SB 439. People should not be punished for refusing medical treatment. The medical industrial complex loses power and profit when we say no. Thank you.
Anyone here in Carson City? All right, Las Vegas, anyone in opposition of SB 439? We'll go to the phone lines. Please, BPS, when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 439, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lisa Partee. It's spelled P as in Paul, A-R-T as in Tom, E-E. I echo Ms. Clements and Ms. Hanson. SB 439 removes control of the sex education curriculum from the local sex education advisory committee, which includes at least one parent under the elected school board. And for it to go over to a council that is it's unaccountable. It allows outside people to teach in our schools, and with Planned Parenthood having the agenda, it promotes anti-family lifestyle. It mandates HIV drugs for literally everyone. And it's a huge payday for Big Pharma. This removes accountability to the schools and the curriculum. It scares children. This is what they will do. Scare children into believing the propaganda about HIV and that they'll get AIDS if they test positive, which after 40 years since the last big HIV scare still has not been demonstrated to cause AIDS. This will just allow the schools to create the next big public health emergency based on fear and not true medical testing and issues. Planned Parenthood was created to kill off the black population. This is nothing new. They get rich off of killing babies and selling their body parts, many of which end up in our pharmaceutical drugs, which is pretty sickening if you ask me. Just look at the ingredients of the shots that have been produced recently. Fetal cells are in many of these. But this just supports the relationship between Planned Parenthood and said pharmaceutical companies. This is another attack on our kids as well as the taxpayers, which has been so prevalent this session. Please do not pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. My name is Jim DeGraffenreid. I am Nevada's Republican National Committeeman in opposition to SB 439 on behalf of the Nevada Republican Party. SB 439 seeks to take away the ability of local school boards who are most accountable to parents to set the sex education curriculum and determine the ages that are appropriate for this information. And instead, the state will set a one-size-fits-all curriculum, and in addition will require parents to deal with an unaccountable commission as opposed to their local school board. As was mentioned earlier, this will require some fiscal expense to the state to put on this program as opposed to leaving it with the local school boards. SB 439 does not require that these subjects are taught by a teacher or even an employee, but rather specifically allows these subjects to be taught by strangers with ulterior motives from outside the school system. In 2017, Governor Sandoval vetoed AB 348, a bill very similar to this one that parents lobbied hard to defeat. His veto message stated the reasons that this was a bad idea, and these reasons are just as valid today. His message reads in part, finally, without a doubt, the policy changes involving sex education are ones that should be determined by parents, educators, and education policymakers at local school boards. These environments invite and include optimum discussion, debate, and decisions for the children who attend the schools in those neighborhoods, but a uniform one-size-fits-all approach to sex education would be ill-advised, and these policy changes, if made, should be made at the local level. Please do not circumvent local school boards, do not add to the fiscal cost of the state, and oppose SB 439 to protect Nevada's families and children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Hello, my name is Katie Banuelos. That's Banuelos. I'm speaking representing the Libertarian Party of Nevada in opposition to this bill. We oppose this on two grounds. First of all, centralizing sex ed at the state level kind of deprives parents of the ability to weigh in. These kind of decisions should be made in the most decentralized way at the most local level. Secondly, many of the HIV-related provisions in this bill are just purely a handout to the pharmaceutical companies, this corporate welfare requiring a variety of entities to have and keep these drugs on hand and creating all these mandated provisions in terms of when they should be distributed. We oppose all of that as well as the requirements placed on insurers. Thank you.
Next caller.
Go ahead. Caller 839, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me? Casey Rogers for the record. Planned Parenthood in our classrooms. As a parent, we've had enough of your indoctrination of our children. Leave our kids alone. Why are you so concerned about HIV? Is it because HIV was added into that gain of function research that was forced into over 70% of our country's arms? Looks like somebody's trying to cover their tracks. Local school boards belong local, and the decisions belong to their parents. Leave your so-called legal drugs from Big Pharma away from our kids. Quit trying to control our voices as parents. They are our children, not yours. I would like to echo everyone's opposition testimony thus far. But finally, the one last thing I'd like to say. When you try saying opting out, even though that's not a part of this bill, I have noticed, it is not considered informed consent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Erin Phillips. I'm the president of Power to Parent, ERINPHILLIPS. I'm calling today in opposition of SB 439. There are a couple of reasons that we're opposed to this bill, but if you read the fiscal note on the NDE that's still existing, they're utilizing Advocates for Youth organization for training and curriculum. The mission statement of this group on the front page of their website states, young people understand that reproductive and sexual health rights are inextricably tied to social justice and the fight for liberation. Essentially what we're looking at here is a social justice organization that's being billed to parents as health educators under the fiscal note. If you read more thoroughly, it says the virtual professional development that Advocates for Youth offers puts educators in the virtual classroom. Instructional coach will assist in offering feedback, etc. Essentially, we're looking at paying $600 an hour to train educators from Advocates for Youth, which is not a neutral, fact-based health organization. It fundamentally has an agenda, and we need to keep that type of agenda-driven curriculum out of our classroom. We need to be looking at neutral curriculum, neutral training. So I would urge you, for the other reasons that were stated, also the fact that this is decentralized, or it's centralizing these really important decisions that parents need to be involved with. And I also want to make one more statement. Section 18 also allows for this sex education curriculum to be taught in any subject. Please read Section 18 and make sure that you understand that this is not just about health. This is taking sex education outside the purview of health. And so in that way, it's also removing the opt-in specific express permission that parents have the right in order for their child to be taught sex education. We oppose this bill. Thank you.
Next caller, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of this committee. My name is Kat Sienkiewicz, SIENKIEWICZ for the record. I'm co-director of Health Freedom Nevada. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. We oppose SB 439. SB 439 is just one of the many bills in this 23rd session of the Nevada Legislature that seeks to put pharmaceutical and medical industry profits ahead of the health of the people of Nevada. This bill opens the pharmaceutical drug pipeline in our state, in particular that of HIV treatment and quote-unquote prevention, along with even more drugs to treat illicit drug addiction. This bill includes sexuality education for all Nevada public school children, kindergarten and up, to ensure that they are all educated or arguably programmed from an early age to blindly accept this onslaught of pharmaceutical drugs without question. This bill egregiously prioritizes HIV drug access to our most vulnerable populations, particularly those receiving public services and assistance, including those incarcerated. There's no law that requires a plan for interrupted diabetes or blood pressure medications during the next public health emergency. No, just for the dangerous and unproven HIV drugs, which, by the way, include pre-exposure drugs for those who haven't had sex or used IV drugs, and post-exposure drugs for those who might have been exposed, and treatment drugs for anyone who has tested positive for HIV, drugs for everybody. HIV is the original COVID scam. HIV has never been proven to cause AIDS. The entire House of Cards is built on one statement made in a press conference by the National Institutes of Health on April 23, 1984, that claimed HIV is the probable cause of AIDS. Never has there been any science to support that theory. People need to educate themselves on this topic, and they need to avoid these dangerous chemotherapy drugs. SB 439 is a massive boon for the pharmaceutical industry with mandated public and private insurance coverage of these HIV drugs. Please vote for the people of Nevada by voting against SB 439. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any more callers, BPS?
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to neutral here in Carson City, in Las Vegas. On the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in neutral to SB 439, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. Senator Harris, closing comments, please.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair Dondera Loop, Dallas Harris, for the record. I just want to put a couple of facts on the record. We heard a lot of testimony. If the committee would turn to page 15, section 17, going on to page 16, if you look at sub 3, section 17, sub 3, that's on page 16. That is the advisory committee that we have heard so much about today. If you'll notice, it is not struck out. The advisory committee will remain in existence. It will continue to have all of the same duties that it had before. There are absolutely no changes, not even to the membership of that advisory committee. This bill does not mess with their authority at all. And then I'll also just bring y'all up quickly to line 30. If you'll take a note, for the very first time, we will require that they involve the parents or guardians of pupils in the instruction provided and encourage pupils to communicate with their families concerning issues related to sexuality. Sounds like good stuff to me. And then just one last thing. We are changing just a little bit about what is going to be required to be taught, but these are evidence-based and factual instruction. Evidence-based and factual instruction. I think that that is the best way to guide our sexual education in this state. And then I'll just note one last thing, and that is that this bill does not require an opt-out. It will remain an opt-in. We have another piece of legislation that considers changing that. That is not this bill. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate y'all hearing this and sticking with us through a little bit of long testimony. Appreciate you. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Senator Harris. We appreciate that. And with that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 439, and we'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 242. Senator Wynn, when you're ready, you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Dondera Loop. My name is Rochelle Wynn. I represent Senate District 3, and I'm here to present Senate Bill 242. And just by way of a little background, this started off as something a little bit more ambitious, and we are here today with an amended bill, which creates a working group to work during the interim. I will just note that This bill was heard in Senate Health and Human Services on March 23rd, 2023. About a month later, it was work sessioned, and then it has been sitting here this entire time. Even working up until that March hearing date, I've had numerous hearings and meetings and working groups to work out that language. And even post that hearing, I think we had even more conversations about what the ultimate language that is before you today looked like. And in fact, one of the people that brought this bill to me is a part of the Nevada Psychiatric Association, and so I have been working with multiple members. So I will say that the very, very first time that I saw this substantial amendment come to my attention was when it was handed out to me by committee staff. So I have not had an opportunity to do that. I will say that that organization has had an abundant opportunity to meet with me to discuss their concerns and have not. But I will continue to work out and reach out with any groups that reach out to me. Obviously, that's kind of where we are. But it's my understanding there is no fiscal note that has been attached to this and in its current form, and I will be ready for any questions.
Thank you very much, Senator Wynn. So this amendment that we just received this morning, you haven't seen?
I have not.
Okay, so just FYI to anybody out there who might be listening, if you have an amendment that a sponsor hasn't seen, it's not a good way to start a bill. So I'm a little disappointed in that, but this
As
does
am I.
not have a fiscal note. Am I clear?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions on Senate Bill 242 from the committee? I'll give you just a minute to make sure that nobody has any questions. All right, seeing no questions, thank you very much. We'll go to support here in Carson City. Please go ahead when you're ready. Good morning, welcome, good to see you.
Good morning, Scott Rutledge with our Argentum partners for the record here in support of SB 242. Just so that the committee is aware, these type of study or working groups have started to show up in other states. Just this year, we've seen Washington and Hawaii create working groups to look at this. There's a couple of states that are looking at these types of programs going forward, and that's what we're asking the working group to do. State of Connecticut, state of Oregon. So we're not the first to be doing this. We're certainly not going to be the last, and we would appreciate your support in this working group. Thank you.
Mr. Rutledge, I'm sorry, I know you're with Argentum, but would you tell me who you're representing today?
Oh, absolutely. My client is Deep Roots Harvest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Finance Committee. My name is Eduardo Martinez for the record, and on behalf of the Nevada Coalition for Psychedelic Medicines, we are in support of SB 242, as it allows our state to take a proactive and thoughtful approach in evaluating the actions of states like Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Texas, Connecticut, and as of this morning, Minnesota, in relation to this substance at minimal expense to the state. This is a fiscally responsible avenue for identifying future steps that addresses our state's mental health challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Annette Magnus, and I'm here today representing Battleborn Progress. And I just want to say that this bill is an exciting bill for those of us who have mental health challenges, and I think this is a great way to start exploring the use of these drugs in the state of Nevada. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, any additional support here in Carson City? Anyone in Las Vegas? And on the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 242, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, my name is Katie Banuelos. That's Banuelos. I'm speaking on behalf of the Libertarian Party of Nevada. We support this bill as a good step forward in legalizing psilocybin and the use of it. That comes down to just a matter of bodily autonomy. The prohibition mindset prevalent in our government has so far stifled any exploration of these products for therapeutic purposes or any other research, and also just people have a right to do with their bodies what they will and consume these kind of products. So we fully support this bill, and thank you to the sponsor for bringing it.
Thank you very much. Additional callers, please.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll go to opposition here in Carson City.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jeanette Belts. I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Psychiatric Association. Thank you so much to Senator Wynn. Just wanted to clarify the record that Dr. Shaley Jane, who she's been working with, may be a member of the Nevada Psychiatric Association. However, we represent the Nevada Psychiatric Association and have been working with them through the entire process in opposition to this bill. Secondly, the genesis of this bill, and I understand that this is a money committee, but we're also 11 days out. So the genesis of this bill came this morning. It is my habit every single day to look at the noticenv.gov website to see what meetings are being scheduled for that day, because it's very frequent that you aren't aware of meetings that are scheduled. So it turns out that I found out this morning that there is a group called the Statewide Epidemiology Organization Working Group that was not posted for a meeting today. So I thought there's no meeting. Well, I find out about an hour later that there was a meeting of this working group. So and I researched a little more, and I found out that that working group, in fact, used to be posted, but now is no longer posted. So it seems that there's a change in the depth and the level of the organizations, the committees that are being posted on that website. So I went back and looked at this bill, and in fact, it's called a working group, the Psychedelic Medicines Working Group. So my concern is that there will not be transparency regarding this group and to a place that I go to normally, a notice.nv.gov, and that it would not be posted. So our amendment, which in my opinion is not substantial, asks for clarity that this group be subject to the open meeting law. That would be amendment number 2 in our list. And number 4, that any subcommittee created by the chair would also be subject to NRS 241, or else it's my fear that those will not be. Third is require a quorum of all members be required to take any action, because in fact, in section 3.54, it says the majority of members of the working group constitute a quorum for the transaction of business, but a majority of members is enough to take official action. So if we don't have a meeting that's noticed and we have just the majority of people that are there being able to take action, then that for me as a transparency person and as a member of the public and trying to figure out what's going on would be extremely problematic. And lastly, and this is consistent with the MPA's testimony all along, there are risks to taking psilocybin. For example, if you're schizophrenic or if you have schizophrenic tendencies, you shouldn't be taking it. It has a tendency to increase blood pressure, so if you have uncontrolled blood pressure or you're not aware of it, then that should be noted. The preamble itself does not refer to any of those potential risks. And so if it were added to there that there's also potential risk to the taking of this drug, then it would be fine to leave the preamble in. But at this point, with the opposition that we have given previously, it is not in there. So I appreciate the time, Madam Chair, and I'm happy to answer any questions about this.
Thank you very much. And I can't speak to the amendment, Ms. Belts. I can only speak to the timing of the amendment. And so with that, I would just say there is probably not a person in this building, including lobbyists, who would not be upset if a amendment was handed to somebody in a meeting, in the middle of a meeting, concerning a bill that they are sponsoring. So I will allow the sponsor of this committee to address those things when she comes up for closing comments.
Sure.
But I would just tell you that, once again, I mean, when you get an amendment and a bill was heard 2 months ago, it's just an issue. So
Yeah, and I appreciate that very much, Madam Chair. And just to let you know, it was early this morning that I started work on this, and we reached out to the folks that have been lobbying the bill, because obviously you can reach out to them before 8 o'clock in the morning, which we did, and so they were aware of that, just to make you aware of that. Thank you.
Well, I can tell you I was here at 7, and I can tell you Senator Wynn was here shortly after that. So I'm not sure why nobody reached out. So thank you very much for your time. All right, any additional opposition here in Carson City? All right, we'll go to Las Vegas. Any opposition on the phones? Any opposition?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 242, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to neutral here in Carson City. Go ahead, please.
Chair and committee members, for the record, my name is Andrew Lee Pilbit. I am the chairman of the United Veterans Legislative Council for Nevada. I'm also the state commander of Combat Wounded Veterans, the Military Order of the Purple Heart, and we're here to testify in neutral. We've struggled back and forth with this, trying to gain education about the effects. It reminds us a little bit of the hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which has had tests, and of course we've now endorsed it as a state for the feds to deal with. Our concern is health issues of our veterans and their families, and of course naturally suicide prevention. There seems to be hope here, but we remain in neutral on this bill. I might point out that I've been a member of the governor's challenge for 5 years. However, in the last 4 months, very inactive because of all of you, I've been here. But the governor's challenge for suicide prevention, this may be another source of reducing suicides in our veterans and their families. So we are neutral, however, at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Any additional neutral in the room? All right, we'll go to Las Vegas. Any neutral? And on phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 242, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, would you like to make some closing comments, Senator Wynn?
Thank you. Rochelle Lynn for the record. I obviously I'm open to any conversations. It's just frustrating when you've had months and months and meetings after meetings and things are brought to you in this manner. So I will continue to work with opposing parties to see if we can come up with a place, to have this working group move forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your willingness. All right, with that, I will close the hearing on Senate Bill 242, and I will open the hearing on Senate Bill 419. Welcome, Senator Donate.
Thank you so much, Chair Don Daraloop, and good morning to the members of the Senate Committee on Finance. For the record, my name is Fabian Doñate, and I represent Senate District 10 in the heart of Las Vegas. Before I begin my remarks, I just want to express my gratitude to all of you for hearing this bill. Today, I come before you to speak on Senate Bill 419, which is commonly known as the Nevada Health Opportunities Planning and Expansion Act of 2023, commonly known as the HOPE Act. Today, I am joined by my co-presenter in Las Vegas, Mr. Todd Sklamberg, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Sunrise Hospital. And Chair, in the interest of time, we will stick this presentation and our remarks just to the fiscal note summary that has been delivered to the members of the Senate Finance Committee and bring up folks for any particular questions that folks may have on the fiscal notes associated. To summarize the policy of this bill, the Nevada HOPE Act is a bill that can help improve our health infrastructure and support communities and individuals that were left behind from the COVID-19 pandemic. The HOPE Act will pave the way for Nevada to be a leader in health information technology, reduce the burden of uncompensated care, align health information systems and clinical institutions to ensure patients can receive access to their data, and ensure children and pregnant moms, regardless of their citizenship status, can finally receive access to care. Under the proposed amendments of Senate Bill 419, the HOPE Act is structured under two fiscal tiers: health accessibility and public health modernization. In the handout that I have, I'll walk through this one so that way you can see the breakdown of the fiscal notes that are still outstanding to the bill. We'll start with health accessibility. To reduce the level of uncompensated care, Senate Bill 419 aims to expand Medicaid coverage for pregnant moms and postpartum coverage, regardless of immigration or citizenship status. Further, it requires Medicaid to create a state-funded program to provide coverage for kids 16 and below, regardless of their immigration and citizenship status. Lastly, during the hearing in Senate HHS, we heard a request to open up the Silver State Health Insurance Exchange and to determine the feasibility of applying for a Section 1332 waiver. And in the proposed amendment in front of you, there is a one-time appropriation of $600,000 to the exchange for them to contract experts in filing the waiver and to conduct the actuarial analysis. On page 3 of the fiscal note summary, I have collated for you the fiscal notes and the state impact for the biennium, and so I'm going to go through each of them so you can see all of them combined at the same time. So I mentioned health accessibility, expanding Medicaid. So to expand prenatal coverage for pregnant moms, regardless of their immigration and citizenship status, the cost to the general fund would be $1.7 million, and that includes a federal match of $4.6 million covered under the option of the state's children's health insurance program. As you may know, Senator Cancela, my predecessor, had passed Senate Bill 325 back in the 2017 session. That was unanimous from the Senate, and so this is an expansion as to what we did already for kids, and now it will be covered for pregnant moms. To expand postpartum coverage for pregnant moms regardless of their immigration or citizenship status, the cost to the general fund would be $2.8 million. To expand coverage for undocumented children in the state regardless of their immigration or citizenship status, we project that cost to the state general fund would be around $14.2 million in the biennium. I want to clarify that this is the preliminary amount that was reflected with conversations with Medicaid, and it's a reflection of the proposed amendment that you have with you. The fiscal note that you see on Nellis reflects children between the ages of 0 to 26, and again, the amendment that I have before you is from 0 to 16. And Chair, if it's okay with you, I would invite Medicaid at the end after I conclude going through all the fiscal notes. That way they can answer any questions as to what the revised fiscal note would be for 0 to 16. The proposed amendment would strike the provisions of expanding coverage to DACA recipients, which would further reduce the fiscal note provided by Medicaid under the first reprint, and to conduct, as I mentioned, the actuarial analysis under the Silver State Health Exchange with the consideration of applying for Section 1332 innovation waiver through CMS to expand coverage through the state's health insurance marketplace. And the conversations we've had with them, we believe that a one-time appropriation of $600,000 would help the exchange support this initiative to report back to the legislature with accurate numbers on the direct and indirect costs of such expansion and the consideration for state subsidies. Let me just start what I summarized. So we're doing the expansion for prenatal and postpartum coverage. Part of that has a federal match. It's an expansion of what was passed by Senator Cancela back in 2017. The coverage for undocumented children will have Medicaid present as to what the fiscal note would be for 0 to 16. We've taken out, as part of the bill, DACA recipients, and then we have now, under this proposed amendment, would give $600,000 to the exchange, which varies from the $20,000 that they put on the fiscal note. The rationale for that is that was a request that we received from the community as to let's actually go through the process of determining what the state subsidies would cost. Let's open up the exchange so people can pay for the healthcare themselves. And so that's what is reflected on the amendment. For modernization, so moving on to page 4 of this fiscal note summary, under the provisions outlined in Senate Bill 419, the legislature would require modernization efforts to update regulations for data exchange and to reduce regulatory burdens on healthcare providers. The bill requires that DHHS recruits a chief data officer to stand up this strategic arm, which would cost the state general fund $589,275. That is a fiscal note that is reflected from the director's office, and I think Medicaid mentioned to me this morning that they have a slight revision, so they'll present that when they come up. And one last note, there was an unsolicited fiscal note submitted by the Department of Corrections due to the regulations on data exchange that were adopted, and in the reflected amendment that I have, Section 6, subsection 7 of the amendment before you would now exempt them from having to comply with regulations proposed under the amendment to SB 409, so they wouldn't, the fiscal note would not apply anymore with this particular amendment. That concludes my remarks, Chair Dondera-Loop, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Sklamberg just to present his remarks, and then we can...
Thank you very much, Mr. Sklamberg. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, good morning, Chair Dondera-Loop and members of the committee. My name is Todd Sklamberg, CEO of Sunrise Hospital and Sunrise Children's Hospital, in support of SB 419. We want to thank the Senator for the important work on expanding access to health care for some of the most vulnerable population in the state. Let me start by providing a quick overview of Sunrise Hospital. Sunrise Hospital is the state's largest acute care hospital with 834 beds. We're committed to caring for the entire community. Last year, for all Medicaid recipients receiving inpatient care in the state of Nevada, Sunrise provided 20% of that care. And if we look specifically at Clark County, Sunrise Hospital provides 25% of inpatient care for those covered under Medicaid. Of the 834 beds at our hospital, 206 are dedicated to Sunrise Children's Hospital, the state's largest children's hospital. And we proudly care for those patients in our 72-bed NICU, 24-bed pediatric ICU, and the state's only pediatric CICU. In addition, we provided through our 20-room children's hospital emergency room care to over 3,200 children who are uninsured, many of those undocumented. And one of the most important aspects of this bill relates to providing coverage for expectant moms and to enhance access to prenatal care. To give you a sense of the staggering lack of prenatal care that we see, through last Tuesday, for the year so far, we've had 770 moms drop in to our labor and delivery unit. Drop-in is being defined as those moms who have had limited or no prenatal care or no OB. The 770 moms represent almost 50% of the delivery volume at Sunrise Hospital. Many of you have had the opportunity to tour through Children's Hospital and specifically our NICU, and that's where there's no better place to understand the impact of preventive care than the neonatal intensive care unit. This morning we have 56 babies in our neonatal intensive care unit, several of them under 500 grams, and 500 grams is 1 pound. Think of 4 sticks of butter or a 16-ounce bottle of water. Many of our patients that come through labor and delivery without that prenatal care end up in the neonatal intensive care unit. Many could be with us for 20 or 30 weeks. So expanding the coverage that we're talking about today to more uninsured is a good investment financially. More importantly, it increases the access to preventive care, promotes overall wellness, and leads to a significantly improved quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair Fabian Doñate, for the record. At this time, if we would like to invite Medicaid, in case if there are any questions from the committee on the amendment, they can elaborate. So.
Certainly. Before we go there, so am I clear that this, the fiscal note on this bill added all up is almost $20 million?
With the proposed, thank you, Fabian Oñate, for the record, close to that. So I think that's kind of what, if Medicaid can come up, essentially with there is just one part of the fiscal note that's off because of some revisions, and it's only to the Nevada Innovation Hub, so that's on page 4. Medicaid mentioned that amount might increase just slightly, but it's around 20 million for the biennium.
If my math is right, I'm at 19.2 plus. So if Medicaid has anything that they would like to add, they're welcome to come add that.
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members, Stacy Weeks for the record, Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy. This amendment would remove DACA individuals, as you know, as well as narrowing the eligibility to ages 0 to 16, and we expect that in total, it's about 18.056 million for the biennium in 24-25.
Would you repeat that amount, please?
Yes, it's 18,056,972 exactly.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, any questions on this particular bill? Senator Wynn.
I'm trying to figure out how this is quantified in here on like catastrophic care or things that are unquantifiable. And maybe this is another question for Ms. Weeks.
Madam Chair, through you to Senator Wynn, Stacy Weeks for the record, Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy. We do assume some savings for any emergency-related services because we currently cover anyone who comes in, regardless of immigration, for emergency services. So we're assuming some savings to that program that have offset some of these costs.
Any additional questions or concerns? Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on the hub piece in section 23, the Nevada Innovation Hub, what's the breakout of the cost for that?
Thank you so much, Senator Neal. I'll invite Ms. Marla McDade-Williams to provide that feedback from DHHS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Marla McDade-Williams, Deputy Director of Programs, Nevada's Department of Health and Human Services. So what we had anticipated for the new position and the AA2 is what's listed on the website under the fiscal note for the bill, which I believe is, if I can get to this. I didn't bring my glasses with me.
It's the one that's, Fabian Oñate for the record, it's Department of Health and Human Services Director's Office.
Correct. So it is $258,341 for the first year of the biennium, $330,934 for the second year.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so, because I knew you were, this is a separate question on section 31. I mean, I know that you were working this out, and GOED doesn't have a fiscal note on this, nor Department of Taxation. Is this still going to have a correlation with the medical district piece?
Thank you so much, Senator Fabian Oñate for the record. Anything dealing with tax abatements has been deleted from the amendment, and so it will no longer apply to the bill.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. I guess the other thing is that just because we put 0 in a fiscal note doesn't mean it doesn't have a fiscal impact. And I think we've all learned that this session for sure. So the fiscal impact cannot be determined, but that doesn't mean it's just nothing. So I think that, we definitely need some clarification on that, because right now, like I said, I'm looking at 20 million on this.
Chair, are you referring to the Department of Taxation, Fabian Oñate for the record, are you referring to the Department of Taxation fiscal note? There are fiscal notes for this bill, but I think to.
Senator Neal.
Yeah, so I just looked at the amendment. He deleted those sections where he would be creating a tax credit program in order to build, I guess, a medical district, kind of. So that's out. So those wouldn't apply anymore.
All right. Seeing no more questions or comments, thank you very much. We'll go to those in support here in Carson City. Please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Leah Case here today on behalf of the Nevada Public Health Association in support of Senate Bill 419. The Nevada Public Health Association supports investments in anything public health related, including the Nevada Innovation Data Hub component of this and the expansion of CARE. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Sarah Adler, Silver State Government Relations, today representing First Med Health and Wellness, a federally qualified health center with 3 locations in Clark County. They support this bill. They would like to share with you that their percent of uncompensated care has risen to 35% of the care that they provide. They feel that bringing care to these populations will reduce their fear of accessing care, increasing their wellness, and reducing healthcare costs overall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional? Carson City. Las Vegas, go ahead, please.
Good morning, everyone, and members of the chair. My name is Nereida Bobadilla, Nereida Bobadilla, and I'm truly honored to be here with you today as a proud member of Make the Road Nevada. Being undocumented has always tested my endurance. I grew up with brothers and sisters who could go to the doctor because they were born here. I saw how different things were for them. As a kid, I understood the value of accessing health care, but I also knew this was a burden to my family because we couldn't afford the cost of medical treatments. Consequently, any simple illness was met with constant anxiety, resulting in days of discomfort before finally choosing to seek the treatment I needed. Today, I stand before you to support the opportunity to change this. The HOPE Act represents a chance to correct this unfairness for thousands of young Nevadans. I firmly believe that healthcare is a fundamental human right, not a luxury reserved for certain groups of people. I urge you to vote in support of the HOPE Act. This bill is a crucial step forward to the health of young Nevadans and therefore a brighter future for our state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no one else in Las Vegas, we'll go to the phone lines. BPS when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 419, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller, please press *6 to unmute.
I'm testifying in opposition, not in favor.
Thank you very much. BPS, if there's no one else on the line, we will go to opposition here in Carson City. Please go ahead when you're ready, Ms. Hansen.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Janine Hansen. I'm the state president of Nevada Families for Freedom. It's difficult to know with the last-minute amendments just what SB 419 will cost. We have been following this from the beginning, so we have been aware. But it's difficult for us to know. It's also difficult to know exactly what it covers. But we have several concerns, and the first one is the huge fiscal note. There's always never enough money for everything everybody wants. That's just the reality, because individuals who pay taxes also have limited money, and it's getting more limited with inflation. We could consider the working poor, children in foster care, seniors, veterans, a break for the middle class, taxpayers, health care in the rural counties. Where I live, that's a real problem. So there's a lots of things we could consider besides spending millions of dollars for illegal aliens and their health care. We are also significantly concerned about and opposed to a centralized state government health database, which jeopardizes individual privacy and freedom. We know that it will be connected ultimately to a federal database and possibly, as we have read online, the World Health Organizations. These are considerable concerns for us because we know that no database is safe. We know that many government databases have been hacked, and this continues to be a problem. And your health information can affect the kind of job you can get, the kind of home you can rent. Your whole life can be affected by those who may have your private personal information on your health. So we oppose this bill, and we particularly oppose it because we do not feel that the priorities are correct. We need to be taking care of American citizens in Nevada who are in need first. But first of all, we shouldn't even be spending all that money. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and council members. My name is Kathleen Palmer, Palmer. SB 419 creates a centralized state database for health and medical records of citizens, which requires all medical providers to participate, replacing current private systems. Electronic medical data, which is currently only available within your medical provider's office, will be entered into the central system if this bill passes. This is the creation of a digital health ID, a super vaccine passport, which could allow citizens to be targeted by government or non-governmental organizations based upon their private health data. As witnessed through the COVID pandemic, government officials and unelected bureaucrats could easily control individuals' movements in a future pandemic or emergency scenario based on arbitrary health metrics. As I mentioned in my last testimony, I've already experienced this. I was denied access to private, public, and medical spaces even when my mother was dying, even though I had no infections or communicable diseases. I was denied access because I refused to be injected with medical use authorized substances, even though I was perfectly healthy. I also could not travel unless I was injected or had a swab shoved up my nose. I urge a no vote on SB 419. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, any additional opposition? Anyone in Las Vegas? Phone lines when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 419, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I've been waiting here for support. Is that okay, or do you want me to wait?
You're in support?
That's right.
Yes, can you wait just a minute? We're going to see if we can get the opposition people on. Thank you.
Casey Rogers for the record. A database for health records, including such things as whether or not you've had the COVID vax, making headway for vaccine passports, which we know the World Health Organization is at the forefront of. The reason our Board of Health bypassed every voice of reason during this the COVID scandemic. Talk about an insurrection. Talk about inciting violence. Stealing our civil liberties and our rights through fear and scare tactics, and all by blatant lies. I'd just like to know, Senator Deontay, how is it that you know that there will be another scandemic/pandemic? Every bill coming through is literally inciting violence on the American people and the people of Nevada. I'd like to know why you haven't told the people that you're trying to rescue and tell them that this is their salvation place, that actually you're just trying to dominate and control them and make this the place that they're running from. That is all.
Thank you very much. Additional opposition?
Good morning. My name is Teresa DeGraffenreid. That's spelled DeGraffenreid. I'm the Vice Chair of the Douglas County Republican Party in opposition to SB 419 on behalf of the Nevada Republican Party. Our platform specifically opposes government benefits or other special treatment for those who enter our country illegally. So on that note, just on principle, we do oppose this bill. And on another note, an extra $20 million in an already tight budget of the Nevada's budget is a horrible use of our money, and we just oppose this on principle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to any more opposition.
My name is Lisa Partee, P as in Paul, A-R, T as in Tom, E-E. I vehemently oppose SB 419. At the prior hearing, people here illegally were upset that the healthcare system had let them down and complained about the lack of care because they're undocumented. People who are true citizens are having difficulty getting health care in Nevada. We're short-handed, short-staffed, and allowing people here who have come here illegally to further water down our ability to get health care is an insult to Nevadans. Their problem only started because they came here illegally. I know lots of people who go south of the border for health and dental care, and they pay cash for the privilege. I can't imagine how the folks there would feel if we went there and demanded they give us free health care. I don't think they'd like it very much. Also, I note that none of those who testified at that hearing in the Senate mentioned once any interest in becoming citizens. DACA kids have had plenty of time to become naturalized citizens as well as be productive members of society, and they should be citizens by now and contributing. This is extremely insulting to all Nevadans and Americans. And absolutely no to any health care database. This is a globalist agenda, and Mr. Donate is a good soldier for the globalist elites, the UN and the WHO. The majority of Americans and those who have a say in Nevada do not wish for this. HIPAA has been in place for 30 years to ensure privacy. During the Senate hearing, Mr. Donate said HIPAA would still be applicable, but that can't be when you want to put us on a statewide and national database that can take away our autonomy and ability to make our own health care choices. These databases will tell anyone with access our entire medical history. Remember COVID and the attempts to prevent people from traveling or shopping based on their vaccine status. That's the purpose of these databases. They're not safe, they're not private, and it's a lie to say otherwise. We Nevadans have had enough of this, asking us to pay for all these programs, those of us who have done the right thing all our lives and worked hard to achieve what we have. And even now we struggle to pay our insurance premiums and medical bills, yet you still want even more. This is not a bottomless supply of funds for these bills, which want to take from us to give to others who don't want to bother to become naturalized citizens. You have to teach a man to fish, not give him all your fish. Thus, this is not sustainable. I'm not sure where Ms. Adler thinks this will lower costs, only for the illegals, not for citizens. We are already overtaxed and want to maintain our health care privacy. This is actually treasonous, un-American, unconstitutional, and unsustainable, and I echo the prior opposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please, BPS.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of this committee. My name is Captain Kiewitz, SIENKIEWICZ for the record. I'm co-director of Health Freedom Nevada. In addition to creating universal health care regardless of citizenship, SB 419 sets up the framework for digital health IDs, including potential vaccine passports, and for the coordination of citizens' private health data between the state of Nevada's digital health database, which is also currently being created with AB 7, and the federal government. This opens the possibility for globally shared personal health data with the involvement of non-governmental global organizations such as the non-elected World Health Organization. This is bad news for the citizens of Nevada. As was evidenced during the COVID public health emergency, the adoption of a centralized digital health data system has the potential to severely restrict the freedom and sovereignty of the people of Nevada. This is the enforcement arm of quote-unquote public health diktats that may or may not be legitimate. This will take away an individual's ability to decide for themselves which drug or countermeasure they accept. It will take away an individual's ability to say no, thank you. What kind of a world do we live in where our state's elected legislators are considering laws that may enslave the population to arbitrary health standards and health controls? Please vote against SB 419 and stand on the side of the people of Nevada. Do not hand our medical freedom away. Thank you very much.
Next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Cindy Martinez, Assembly District 30 and Senate District 13. I am a United States Marine Corps veteran and an honorably retired Nevada State Peace Officer. The cost estimates to the general fund are a few million here, a few million there, all to people who are not American citizens, and is an affront to those of us who understand the fiscal responsibility of our citizenship. It is my responsibility to not be a burden to the state, better known as my fellow citizens. It is often said, quote, healthcare is a right. Healthcare is not a right. Healthcare is a personal responsibility. Let me repeat that. Healthcare is a personal responsibility. What is being requested is expanded public funding of insurance to illegal aliens, a population which is exploding with the current invasion of our country underway. This bill appears to seek to expand the insurance welfare state at the cost and burden of Nevada taxpayers of almost $20 million. The spokesman from Sunrise Hospital just explained what they want: public money to provide private services to non-paying recipients. I'm also opposed to centralized state medical records databases. This would appear to facilitate government's ability to identify people who may be exercising personal freedom to decline, quote, mandated injections. My world became very small during the COVID pandemic. I was ejected from Costco, denied service at restaurants, chased around Macy's. I was excluded from air travel. I could not participate in public government meetings unless I wore a face shield or a gaiter. Such centralized database would be used against Nevadans like me. It is a violation of my privacy. Please vote no on SB 419.
Next caller, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is Steve Messenger on behalf of the Nevada Primary Care Association in support of SB 419. The Nevada Primary Care Association represents the state's federally qualified health centers who provide care to all comers regardless of ability to pay or insurance status. And in 2021, that meant we served about 32,500 uninsured Nevadans. It is very important to the health of our communities for people to have health insurance. We can do primary care. We can detect problems before they get expensive and end up being funded by taxpayers in emergency rooms under emergency conditions. But we can do that if the patient is uninsured and can't access the specialty care that would prevent those expensive occurrences. So we think the expansion of access is very appropriate. These are kids in our communities, and they are taxpayers, or future taxpayers, certainly. We support that part of the bill. And just to speak on the sharing of information, if we want to lower healthcare costs, it's essential that we be able to share information between healthcare providers. We need to be able to talk to those specialists. We need to get the information back to their primary care provider so we can provide the lowest cost care in the most appropriate setting. And that's what this bill helps us to do a little bit better. And so for those reasons, we thank Senator Doñate for his sponsorship of the bill, and the Nevada Primary Care Association is in support of SB 419.
Thank you very much. Any callers in opposition left, BPS?
Hello, my name is Katie Banuelos. That's Banuelos. I'm calling in representing the Libertarian Party of Nevada in opposition to SB 419. We strongly oppose this bill because, among other things, it creates a centralized state-run repository for all medical records and applies penalties to providers who choose not to participate. Not only does this create a privacy risk for Nevadans in terms of data security, it also creates a platform for abuse. This bill creates the framework for the ultimate vaccine passport. Throughout the COVID pandemic and subsequent vaccine regime, Nevadans have witnessed firsthand how willing our elected officials and the unelected bureaucrats of our public health apparatus are to lie to us, to use fear, and to manipulate us into compliance by any means necessary. They're willing to fire Nevadans from their jobs and shut down their businesses. They're willing to hold hostage our ability to work and feed our families in order to boost pharma sales. They tried to turn the unvaccinated into second-class citizens and to bar us from participating in public life. They tried to punish any doctors or experts who dissented from the narrative or made decisions based on the needs of their patients instead of the top-down standards of care. Nevadans remember these abuses of trust and these attacks on personal sovereignty and informed consent. This bill will create a tool to enable future efforts at social control and medical tyranny in our state. SB 419 is an atrocity, and we oppose it completely.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you very much. I will go to neutral here in Carson City. Seeing none. Las Vegas, seeing none. We'll go to neutral on the phone lines. BPS, when you're ready.
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 419, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you very much. Closing comments, Senator Doñate.
Thank you so much, Chair Fabian Doñate, for the record. I don't want to spend time talking about the policy portion of this bill. As you've heard, I've made reiterations that I think could satisfy a lot of those concerns. The most important aspect of this bill is the reason why you see the fiscal notes as high as they were to what we have now, down to the 20 million, was because I could not, in good faith, introduce a bill that would not help my family members. But I have a bill in front of you that has passed similar provisions with Senator Cancella's bill, has passed bipartisan. It has passed bipartisan in other states. And if you have the ability to do so, I would encourage you all to come to my office, because you will see that I have pictures of kids that have cancer in this state that have been denied the care that they can because they don't have healthcare coverage. Regardless of our political opinions of whether or not they should belong here, we should not be turning kids away when they have cancer. This is an ability for them to survive. We spend that money already. I got the data from UMC. In FY 2022, UMC's uncompensated care costs were approximately $42.3 million. We're spending the money regardless of what we decide today. I believe this proposal helps ensure that our families are protected and that our community is left at a better place, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. With that, I will close the hearing on Senate Bill 419, and I'll do our last agenda item, which is public comment.
The budget bill that the Money Committee's approved to carry out the budget as approved.
All right. I was just kidding. Before we do public comment, we are going to introduce a BDR, and I will have Mr. Thorley hand those out to you real quickly. And we're introducing a BDR. And Mr. Thorley, when you're ready, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. You have before you BDR 14-1220, revises provisions relating to records of criminal history. This is a BDR requested by the Committee on Finance. It carries out closing actions of the money committees in closing the budget for the Central Repository for Nevada Records of Criminal History, and happy to answer any questions that the committee members might have.
Thank you very much. Senator, any questions? Senator Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on page 8, is this, so in current law, were we collecting the repository fee from other criminal justice agencies, and now we're not?
Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senator Neal, the purpose of the BDR is to have certain fees collected by the Criminal Records Repository revert to the general fund at the end of the fiscal year rather than stay in the agency's budget. So the BDR would not levy any new fees or increase fees. It would simply just have the existing fees revert to the general fund. In closing the budget for the Central Repository, the money committees approved replacing certain fee revenue in their budget with general fund appropriations, and in doing so approved the drafting of this bill, since the agency now receives as a general fund, would be a general fund agency. They would no longer need to maintain a reserve level. So rather than keeping the fee revenue in their budget, it would revert at the end of the fiscal year.
Madam Chair, how much fee revenue is it? I guess it doesn't matter because we're going to hear it anyway.
Yeah.
I can ask you later.
Okay. I don't know the answer.
Senator Wynn, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I was just going to move to introduce the bill.
If you'll give me just a minute. All right. If I see no other questions, truly when we introduce a BDR, we are not supporting or opposing it. We are just saying that we will let this be heard as a bill. So with that, I'll accept a motion.
So move.
Thank you, Senator Wynn. A second by Senator Titus. And with that, no discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And with that, we will go to our last agenda item, which is public comment. And anybody here in Carson City? Anybody in Las Vegas? And anybody on the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. And so with that, thank you for hanging in there with us, and we will adjourn Senate Finance for today. Oh, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't mean that either. We are recessing Senate Finance for the day, and stay tuned. Thank you. I got all excited for a minute.
Letter dismissed.